There we go. So good evening, everybody. We are really excited to be seeing everyone tonight. We are live here in the International Room in Scarritt Hall at the Scarritt Bennett Center. I have some great people with me. To your, I think, to your right, they're great people. I mean, I just can't remember whether to your right or to your left. But I'm going to have them introduce themselves and we'll go around the room. As you're introducing yourself, just real quick, if you would tell us who you are, where you're living, and when you went to school, and what, you know, Scarritt College, Scarritt Graduate School, just so we get an idea. We'll start with the mob behind me and give them an opportunity to speak.
Marilyn Keeler Morton, 1972. Where are you living? Oh, I live in Reno, Nevada, and I have 2 grown sons and 4 grandchildren.
Gail Shore. I live in wild, wonderful West Virginia, and I was at Scarritt from 1974 to 1978.
Donna Patterson, and I live at Scarritt Bennett Center and work here as a volunteer. And I graduated in 1988.
And Catherine Mitchum, here at Scarritt on the faculty from 74 to 88. I still live here in Middle Tennessee, out in the rural Cheatham County.
And let's go around the room real quick and get to know who else is here. I'm going to call on your first name, and if you would just let us know. I believe that David was one of the first ones in the room. David, would you introduce yourself?
David Dodge, currently living in St. Augustine, Florida. And I was at Scarritt, did my undergraduate work there from 70 to 71, did a master's from 71 to 73, worked for a year in the missions office and came back and did a master's in Christian education. Finally flew the coop in December of 75.
Thanks, David. Welcome. Let's see, we have Barbara and
Betty.
Barbara and Betty.
Betty Lessick. I live at Brooks Howell Home in Asheville, North Carolina. I did my undergraduate work, graduated there at Scarritt in 50 and got my master's in 64. Spent most of my career working with the General Board of Global Ministries in New York.
I'm Barbara Campbell. I also live at Brooks Howell Home in Asheville. I was at Scarritt from 51 to 54. I got both of my degrees there. Spent most of my time in Christian education, mostly on the staff of Women's Division Board of Global Ministries in New York.
So glad to have both of you here tonight. Welcome. Let's see here. We got Melanie. I know you came into the room pretty early.
I'm Melanie Walters. I was there 1968 to 70 for Scarritt College for Christian Workers, and I now live in Austin, Texas, and dying to know who that person in West Virginia, where you live in West Virginia.
I live in Clarksburg, south of Morgan.
All right, yes.
Let's see, Rick came in next.
I'm Rick Isabel, was at Scarritt from 71 through 70, December of 74. Scarritt College for Christian Workers, have an undergraduate degree in drama and have a graduate degree in Christian education. Spent 43 years in the local church, just retired 2 years ago after spending 27 years on the staff of Church Street United Methodist Church here in Knoxville as minister of discipleship. But I live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Glad you're here tonight. Let's see, we're going to go over to Jim and Carlene.
Okay, I'm Carlene Polk. I became Carlene Polk about 3 weeks before we came to Scarritt in the fall of 1970. And I've been that person for a long time now. Scarritt was really formative in our lives and in our marriage. We now live in Nashville. And we're both retired.
Took me a little longer. I was at Scarritt from 1970 until 73. Got a master's in urban church and community work. Worked in Birmingham for a short while as a United Methodist Community Center director, and then we moved back to Nashville. I worked in adult and community education, running a community education center there for most of my adult life. So, yeah.
We're glad that you both are here. And if you haven't heard the good news already, Jim and Carlene have been able to move back into their home after the tornado, although they're vacationing right now. But we're glad you were able to move home.
Thanks.
Let's see, Judy.
Yeah, I'm Judy Jones. I was known as JD Crane back then. I met my husband at Scarritt, and we were married for 43 years, both ordained. I have lived in the Chicago area now for about 25 years. Tried to retire a few years ago, and lately have been recalled. Maybe I didn't do a good enough job of retiring, but I serve the United Church of Christ.
Judy, just keep practicing. You'll get it eventually. Susan.
I am Susan Grosklose. I live in Maryville, Tennessee. I graduated in 87. I was at Scarritt Graduate School in 86, 87. And I am now serving on the Holston Conference staff as Associate Director of Connectional Ministries for Discipleship.
Welcome, Susan. Glad you could make it all the way from Maryville.
I'm glad to. It's neat to have the Zoom to do that.
That is one of the good things that came out of COVID, is connections like this. Star and Jim.
I'm Star Strickland. I was Star Barnhart, and I met Jim Strickland at Scarritt College. I was there 66 to 68, graduated with Masters in Christian Education in 1968. And we got married about 3 weeks after that.
And I'm Jim Strickland. I was at Scarritt working on my master's in Christian education, 65 to 67. I retired. I had served the church for 45 years, and am now on the Scarritt Executive Alumni Board. Had a meeting today and worship.
And I want to take this moment on behalf of all of us Scarritt alums to thank Jim. Jim has actually planned 3 homecomings in the last 2 years. And unfortunately, one of them has finally happened. So Jim, thank you so much for your commitment and dedication.
So I get him back now, right?
Kinda. Let's see, there's a second Richard in the room. Richard.
Richard Whittaker.
Yes.
I'm trying to get.
Now we are. Now we hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm Richard Whittaker. I went to Scarritt and graduated in 1980. I was there from 77 to 80, received a degree in Christian education, served local churches in 4 annual conferences for 40 years before I retired. The last 27 of those were in the Wisconsin Annual Conference. We moved to Durham, North Carolina 2.5 years ago and arrived 3 days before our first grandchild was born here. So we just made it here in time.
Congratulations.
So, I'm glad to be with everyone. I really enjoyed the service today, by the way. It was wonderful.
Welcome, Richard. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And now our superstar from National College, their only cheerleader that's here tonight, Janice.
Hi, Janice Hayes Brown. Yes, I was a freshman at National the year it closed, which of course necessitated my transfer to Nebraska Wesleyan in Lincoln. My undergraduate degrees there are sacred music and a Bachelor of Arts in English. I too have been on the executive committee for about the last 5 years, the Alumni Association Executive Committee. It's been a joy to be with the Southerners.
And if you get our newsletter, when the Postal Service decides to send it to you, Janice is the one who is our amazing editor. And I'm very pleased that she agreed today, even though she's rolling off the executive committee, that she will remain our editor. So thank you so much for your service.
You're so welcome.
Because we really appreciate you. Jackie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. All right. So I was at Scarritt between 84 and 86, and I have a master's in church music choral conducting. And I've served 2 churches here in Florida. I'm in Clearwater, Florida. And when I graduated, I started at Skycrest United Methodist for 5 years, and then I've been at Oakhurst United Methodist for 30 years this fall.
Wow.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thanks.
Let's see, our second Barbara tonight. You're muted. Can't hear you. Barbara Barnes. You're muted, Barbara. Okay, Barbara, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Barbara. Sorry. See if you can.
Jim, you can take her off mute. You can control.
I'm allowed to take her off mute? I'm allowed to ask her off mute.
You can also take her off.
Oh, good. No, do you see it? Nope, we can't. I can only ask her.
Tell her how. I think she doesn't how.
Hey, okay, hey, Barbara, if you take your mouse and put your mouse in the center of the screen and then drag your mouse the whole way down to the left-hand corner, you will see a little microphone there. And if you click on that microphone, it should unmute you. And while Barbara's looking at that, we're going to keep this party rolling. Mark.
Yeah. I'm glad to join you. And first, let me say that my phone made strange noises last night, and I answered it, and it was Ronnie and Hu Young Go, who were with me in Scarritt from, I was there 64, 66. We were all over in the marriage students' apartment, which got replaced. And anyhow, they said, want to say hi to everybody. They're in Australia, and it's 15-hour time difference. But I believe somebody had a doctor appointment at this time in Australia, so they weren't able to join us. But it was they're looking good and feeling good, and everything's going fine. Yeah, I was married with 2 sons and had been teaching school when we got to Scarritt to work on Masters in Christian Ed, and finished in 66, moved to Decatur, Alabama, and then moved to the Alabama West Florida Conference. Had 3 appointments down there. Was ordained a deacon in 96, retired in 99. I now reside about 30 miles out of south of Nashville on the family farm. 20 years ago when I got here, it was very rural. In the 20 years, I got subdivisions all over the place. There are plans now right next to me to put another 293 houses in the 840 interchange area. At the property line, it becomes rural, 1 house to 5 acres. Over there, it's 2 houses per acre. And across the roads, the gated communities will have almost 400 houses in it. And they're getting ready to build an elementary school less than 2 miles away from me. And I live on a very narrow rural road. There's been 2 wrecks in front of my house within the past week. People not paying attention and running off the edge of the road. So my life is changing a lot, but it's been great. I'm an ordained member of the Alabama West Florida Conference. 10 years ago, the church I go to out here at Triune said, would you be our lay leader, lay delegate. I said, I can't. I'm not a member of the church. They didn't accept that answer and went to the DS. And he said, yeah, he can do that. So I'm in my 10th year as the lay delegate, lay leader, working with a part-time local pastor, which I find myself having become a mentor.
Well,
in
Mark,
these-
we are so glad that you're able to join us tonight. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Hey, Barbara, do you want to try again?
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Well, I was Barbara Johnson when I was there. I kind of watched Jim and Star in their romance for 2 years, from 66 to 68, and have enjoyed those friendships through the years. I have 3 living children and I have 8 grandchildren. My husband retired from teaching at a community college about 10 years ago, and we now live at Emerald Isle, North Carolina, on the coast. And I told Star this morning, I got up and we were ready to go to the beach. She said, well, at least you live at the beach and you can go to the beach. I said, yeah, but it was pouring down rain. So that's kind of, we try to go when other people aren't here. We don't particularly care for the tourists, but we manage. And so that's about it. I have 1 granddaughter who will marry next year and 2 graduating from college. So I'm getting to the next stage.
Barbara, glad you're here tonight. And Ellen, can you hear us and can you talk? Are you at that point? Afri, are you able to
I am. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Yes.
Hey,
How
come my face doesn't show, Jim?
I don't know why. Did you take your mouse down to the bottom left?
Let's see. What should I press?
Camera.
To show my face.
There's that little camera at the bottom left-hand corner.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
You can hear me, but no face. Anyway, I'm the faceless person in this group, and I come the farthest. I happen to be in my home in California. I'm a clergy member. Okay. Now.
We see you.
Hey, Afri. Hey.
You just included me, Jim. This is the first time you pressed the video.
It's a miracle.
Oh, come on. Anyway, I was invited to be the academic dean of Union Theological Seminary, the oldest Protestant seminary in the Philippines, in 2002. It was a difficult decision because the Board of Global Ministries froze the hiring of missionaries. So I went there without the Global Ministries support. I said I was going to stay for a couple of years, and I have been there until now. It has been a joy serving the seminary, and it was a fulfillment of my dream to train pastors, future pastors, to be theologically and biblically equipped. So that was a dream come true. I am in my California home. I come home 3 times a year. And, people are asking, where will I retire? I said, I love both worlds. When I'm here, I enjoy being here. When I'm there, I like being there. I serve in the local churches in California Pacific Annual Conference. I'm a retired clergy here. I also serve as a diaconal minister. It has been a joy serving the church here and in the Philippines. Blessings to all of you.
Afri, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yeah. I graduated from Scarritt in 1970. I know very well Rick and Dave and Melanie, 1968 to 70.
Wonderful.
Yes, your name was so familiar to me. Finally, somebody that was there when I was there. I remember you.
Yeah, yeah. Millie Schlagenhoff, good son,
Yes,
was my classmate.
yes.
You okay?
Oh,
So
I
if
got
you
chill
remember
bumps.
that, it's Mary Lou Goddard, our mentor. So happy memories at Scarritt. Got married at the chapel. Okay, and I served the General Board of Global of Discipleship for 7 years. At that
in
time,
a minute, we're going to have an opportunity
so
for
I got
people
to know some
share
of you.
their stories.
Richard Whittaker is another one I know, and Jim and Star Strickland. Oh,
Yes, we were together.
Friends.
Okay,
Long time friends.
Let's see if Ann Ellen's available yet to speak.
It's great. It's great to be here. It's 4:30 in the afternoon here. I made a mistake because I was prepared last Monday to be a part, and I forgot I was a week ahead. That shows I was so excited. Thank you, Jim, for leading the group.
Oh, thank you, Afri. Ann Ellen, are you able to share at this point, or are you still micless? Okay, she's still.
I think I'm not micless, but I do. Okay, I'll just remain visually mysterious if it's all right with you.
Sure.
But I graduated from Scarritt College in 1965 and 1966, and of course that was Vietnam time, and I wound up being married to the U.S. Navy for 2 years out in San Diego. And while I was there, I took a hard right turn and started studying Russian, which led to another graduate degree journey in Ann Arbor during the 70s, which was a good time to be there because that's when the so-called third wave of Russian immigration came through. Mostly Jewish, and that included the poet Joseph Brodsky. So that was a very good time to be there. Since that time, I've always been in the classroom. My very first job was procured by Lou Goddard, and my boss was Elizabeth Nowland over at Centenary Community Center in North Nashville. And I had 17 4-year-olds all to myself. And that was what I did until I got married on the campus of a Navajo school in New Mexico, also a Methodist institution, which the director there at the time was Tom Cloyd, who was at one point, I think, affiliated with the Tennessee Conference. He and his wife, Betty, were connected to Scarritt. And then once I finished grad school, I started moving again, wound up after Michigan, wound up in New Hampshire, and then in New York. Somehow I got stuck in New York, always in the classroom, either as a teacher or a student. My day job was at a Quaker prep school in Poughkeepsie on the Hudson River, which reminded me of Scarritt because it was so tiny, fewer than 200 students, and it was like a baby United Nations. And I think I'll credit Scarritt with helping me find out that the rest of the world was out there. And ever since I found that out, I got interested, and I've stayed interested. Along the way, I've worked with incoming refugees. In New Hampshire, it was Lao and Cambodian students that I worked with English on, and also with their families. And then, of course, some Soviet immigrants in the 70s. And I'm waiting for the incoming 300 Afghans that are headed for Middle Tennessee. I'm going to have to talk with the Polks about how to develop some contacts there. But I'm still trying to get in touch with the only Afghan family I ever met, a mother and daughter in Kabul. The father and the mother were neighbors at UT in Knoxville in the early 1970s. Worst case of culture shock I'd ever seen. In the young Muslim from the village bride who had no English, was much younger than her husband, pregnant, And boy, was she surprised when she went to an American hospital to deliver that baby. But anyway, won't go any further into that. But I have managed to catch up with
We
the.
appreciate you sharing this evening. We'll get back to you in just a little bit, okay?
No obligation.
So we want to take a moment tonight what we really want to do is hear some stories about a story from you about your time at Scarritt. And we really, now, this is really important. We're talking short story, not War and Peace, not War and Peace, short story that you can share. But, and I'm going to give you some time to think about that because we'd like to really like 2 or 3 minute stories is what we're really thinking about. So everybody gets a chance to share, anybody that wants to. But before we do that, we have been, I think, blessed since I have been here to have Sarah Wilkie as the executive director of the Scarritt Bennett Center. And I have found her to be an amazing, her and Keith Belton both, to be an amazing partner, both of whom feel very strongly that our alumni are a valued part of the Scarritt and National College history, and that we're a valued part of the Scarritt Bennett Center story today. And sadly, some of you may have heard Sarah's about to leave us. And that's a big transition, and we're sad to see her go, but we wanted to give her the opportunity. First of all, we want to say thank you for your service. And we wanted to give you one last opportunity to share a few things with the alumni tonight. So Sarah, we're glad you're here and just excited to see you one more time. And you're muted.
Because this is my first Zoom call ever. Sorry about that. I even have a coffee mug that says, I think you're on mute, and I forgot to bring it. Thank you, Jim, for your kind words. We had a great worship today with the whole, and I hope many of you got to watch it online. We had a lovely lunch, and then I know the executive committee's been meeting. Jim asked me to just bring a few words. I want to start by, can you kind of just wave your hand if you were able to watch worship online today? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Many of you on this call contributed to the Joyce Soul Fund that we created. Keith Belton worked to pull that off. And I want to give an update on that. First, let me say that we had Joyce Soul for 10 amazing years living on the campus as the laywoman in residence. And of course, she was with the women's division prior to that, and United Methodist Women. Friends, we owe a great debt of gratitude to Joyce Soul for everything she's done for Scarritt Bennett. Certainly keeping the campus and holding that together for us. But particularly these last 10 years, the spiritual formation programs she's worked on and provided have been amazing. And now, just to make sure you all know, Donna Patterson, who's over Jim's shoulder there, has taken all that Joyce was doing and is adding to it. And I want to lift up Donna as she continues that great work that Joyce began. But in about April, I guess, we launched a fundraising campaign to purchase technology equipment in honor of Joyce, because she's done the Vespers and all that jazz. But worship on Sunday evenings, the Tuesdays in the chapel, the many other events that she's kept going, Poets Corner, all had to become hybrid events as we went to the internet for our connection to one another. And as Jim said, what a gift to be able to connect and see one another. And Ellen, we all know that you're there. We need to get your face on here. It's just important. We just need to see each other. So we thought we could raise $15,000. And friends, we won't turn your donation down today, but many of you have already made gifts, and we have topped $45,000 for technologies and the equipment we need to do hybrid meetings at Scarritt Bennett Center. And it really is going to be amazing. We had, I hope you were able to watch, well, you were able to watch the worship, all of these things. If you weren't able to watch it today, it's archived, it's there. You can still go watch it. So if you didn't get to watch it live, come back and watch it again. And the offerings that Scarritt Bennett will be able to provide, both for meetings that some people are there and some people are sitting at home, that's just going to escalate with this great gift. We should be able to do really beautiful things with that. So very excited about that. Just a couple other campus updates. Yes, I am stepping down from full-time work. I've been working for the church since I was 22. And as I said, I've managed people, property, and program and boards of directors and all kinds of other things since I was 22 years old, when I first started at a United Methodist Women's Ministry in Dallas, Texas, as the director of a community center. And I'm ready to not manage anyone anymore, ever again. It's wonderful. And I've loved every minute, but to be honest, I'm gonna take care of myself, my family. I have some elder people in my family that need a little bit more of my time. And my father's still living, and my father-in-law's still at 91 and 96 respectively. So there's some work to do there to take care of me, and then to step into ministry with my siblings. That'll be exciting. I want to just let you know that while COVID has shut the world down and emptied our campus, two things that will be of interest to you. The first is we've used the time to just do beautiful things. We've even, I showed the alums today, we even had the floor of Susie Gray. It's marble, and they sanded off a very thin layer and took off decades of binge. And now, who knew that the floor had beautiful pink marbles in it that just are gorgeous now. So very excited. Seems crazy to be excited about a floor, but you all know what a sacred space Susie Gray is, where we break bread together. So it's nice to have that redone. The parking lots have been resurfaced. We have been doing lots of beautification around campus. The canvas has been lifted of the trees so you can see and the grass can grow. There's beautiful trees that we've planted. It's just a really exciting time at Scarritt Bennett Center. And I want to just put in a plug, if I may. As you know of people who are thinking, I've had a wonderful career, but I'm not that old yet, or maybe I am, it doesn't matter, but I'd like to do a volunteer and mission stint. What has made the difference at Scarritt Bennett Center, besides a highly committed staff and a great chef, are the volunteers in mission that have been living on our campus, even all through COVID. They've hung in there and held our boat afloat. And that's been a huge game changer for us to have our volunteers in mission who have come and brought their tremendous gifts and graces. So please spread the word. You don't even have to live on our campus. We have some who are from the Nashville area. Well, Catherine Mitchum comes in, Ann Ellen comes in, Jim Polk's on our board. I mean, gosh, a lot of you come over. So don't hesitate. Come do a 3-week, come do a 3-month, come do a 6-month stint as volunteers at Scarritt Bennett Center, or you can move in and stay for a long time if you wish. But it's just the campus is beautiful. The work is amazing. I just keep an eye on everything going on, because it really is launched. It's just ready to launch to a whole new place and a new joy. They will be announcing a new executive in the next week or so. So watch for that. I do believe they've identified someone and have heard, I do know they do, I know exactly that they have identified someone, but I have stayed out of the process because I'm a preacher's kid, and that's what you do. You step back, and the next preacher comes in, or in this case, the next executive director. Want to appreciate the last thing, Jim, just give me 2 seconds to talk about the houses for a moment, if I may. No, I'll be really fast because your stories are far more important, but in 1972, the college sold 2 homes on the corner of Grand and 18th Avenue to help with some financial needs at that time. That they were very, very savvy in that they required a right of first refusal should the upper room and the General Board of Discipleship ever choose to sell them. They have asked if we would like to buy them back, and we do, and we will. So we have the board will be voting next week, but the finance committee is planning to recommend that we purchase those back. And so we will be bringing back those two beautiful homes, and we're excited about having those back in our portfolio. In Nashville, it's very important that we maintain the fullness of the campus. It's almost half an acre, and if we were to let it go to a developer, we would have a high-rise just looming over us. Looming, I guess is the right word, looming over us, and it would be hideous. And so we're excited about that, and just want to invite you all to know that we have the resources for the down payment, primarily because over the last, well, really over the last 5 years while I've been there, estate gifts have come from beloved alums, people who loved the United Methodist Women, people who loved Scarritt Bennett or Scarritt College or Scarritt Bennett. And so we've received enough estate gifts that the board will be able to comfortably put the down payment. It's a $3.4 million purchase. It's not, we sold them for $35,000 50 years ago, but appreciation is real. And we are blessed that we didn't have to go into a competitive market, because they would have gotten more had they put them out on the market. It's right. It's the most prime real estate you could imagine in Nashville. So we're really excited about acquiring those. I'll stay on in transition to make sure that that gets complete. And I'm just excited for the future of Scarritt Bennett Center. And the campus is there for you to come and visit at any time, embrace it, celebrate it. It's a huge blessing. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Sarah. We'll take a couple questions if anybody has one that they'd like to ask.
How will the houses be used?
Well, the first thing is we'll have about a note of about $16,000 a month. So the first thing they'll be lodging just like our other lodging, and people will be able to come and bring your family or bring a group of women who want to do a retreat, or we'll put them into our lodging portfolio.
All right.
So we don't have a specific, we will be able to, nice thing is the way the market is in Nashville, if we can get people to rent them on the weekends, to go ahead and come in Friday, Saturday, Sunday at pretty exorbitant rates that we can get, then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right in there, Dawn is already planning. She's already working on spiritual retreats and gatherings that could use those homes. So we hope we work them 7 days a week, 300 most days a year, maybe not 365, but that's how we plan to use them. Thank you for asking.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And something that the executive committee voted on today, Sarah doesn't know about, we discussed the importance of sacred space and the conversations that we enjoyed around campus, and the music that we shared together. And of course, during COVID, more and more the need for that to happen outside in open spaces. And so Jim Strickland, cover your ears, Star. Jim Strickland today agreed that he's going to help us with our Alumni Association. We're going to work together to raise funds to purchase benches and tables and chairs for outside around this campus, so people can sit down and enjoy the beauty of the campus, and even more importantly, that have time to talk to one another and have time to sing to one another, and just have a good time here at the Scarritt campus. So you'll be hearing more about that effort in the coming weeks and months as we move forward. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Jim, and thank you all for loving this campus and letting me be a part of it for 5 years. It's just been a joy and a gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. So tonight we are going to invite you to share a Scarritt story. Just again, a reminder that we are looking for a short story. No War and Peace, right? Short story, no War and Peace, bad. right? And let's, and you don't have to do this, but if you have a story that you would like to share, would love to hear it. And Rick is ready with the story. So Rick, it's yours.
The most important people in my life I met at Scarritt. I met my wife of 47 years, Sue Merriweather, and we met at Scarritt, and Scarritt is a sacred space to us. I also met my best friend of all times, Ed Britt. He was my best friend for 49 years. And the story I have for Ed Britt is one night we were in the International Garden. This is when Gerald Anderson was president. And Ed says this International Garden was not the labyrinth. It was planted in tulips, straight from Holland. And Ed says, I think I can clear those tulips. And so Ed, taking a running leap, cleared the hedge and thought he could clear the tulips. He didn't. He landed on that sidewalk that was going around the International Garden, and he gashed his elbow. And so Sue and I had to take him to Vanderbilt emergency room. And they said, how did this happen? And we tried to tell him, well, he was trying to jump tulips in a college international garden. And I have many more, but I will stick to those two. Meeting my wife of 47 years and meeting my best friend of 49 years. You can't get any better than that.
Thanks, Rick. Carlene, I think, has a story, or she's waving at somebody.
Yeah, well, either way, I have two quick stories. One is, and this often comes to mind when I think about Scarritt. I took an introductory philosophy class with David White. As I grew up, I was always a good student. I was good at memorizing and spitting stuff back. I did it all through school. I got to Scarritt in this philosophy class, and he wanted us to write, I don't even know what it was, but it was an open-ended question, and it required me to think, to come up with my own ideas and my own response to this question. And that was a new activity in my educational career. And I've carried it with me, so it made a big difference. That was early 70s. What is this? 2021, this very year, and it started in 2017. I and a friend initiated a women's group to consider just how we were going to live through the current presidential leadership that we had at that point. The group still meets during COVID and during the pandemic. We have been meeting on the Scarritt campus, and it's been a bring your own camp chair and bring your own water. So we will enjoy very much thinking together in the contemporary sense on the Scarritt campus, and enjoy having benches when you're there.
Hey. Barbara.
My story is friends and friendship. I was introduced to people from around the world, which was certainly a new experience. But I was at Scarritt during a period when the first two African-American women joined the class. One of them is now deceased, but the other one, Delaris Johnson, Delaris Risher now, we've maintained contact all through the years, sometimes direct, sometimes indirect. She now lives in Charleston, South Carolina. She's the same age as I am, and that's getting along. But we still have many fond memories which we discuss with each other. And in the intervening years, it's been a privilege to keep up with her and many, many other folks that I have met through my Scarritt connection. When I moved into Brooks Howell 25 years ago, there were 7 people there who had been among my Scarritt classmates. We had not seen each other necessarily regularly through the years. Some of them I had not seen at all through those years, but we certainly had something in common when I moved in and we had a chance to catch up with each other.
Thank you. Mark, I see your hand.
Well, it was now 55 years ago. Getting ready to graduate, and Leo Rippey was my faculty advisor. It took me 2 years because I had so much undergraduate work to do, having gone to a secular college. And I had been teaching school. And in January, I guess, of 66, I really started looking to where I might be going to be an educator. And the offers I was getting back, I didn't feel like I could support my family on them. And I went to him and said, you know, I don't know that I can work in the church. I don't think I can afford to. I think I'm going to have to go back to teaching school. And the next thing I knew, he was crying on my shoulder about the poor salaries that the professors at Scarritt were making at that time. And I've often thought about that. Fortunately, I did find a church, and fortunately, the pastor there was the son of a preacher I'd had as a boy, and had been my wife's. He himself had been my wife's preacher, so we fit in real quick, and he sure helped me make it through the first 4 years that I was in Christian education. But poor Leo.
Star.
I always appreciated the smallness of the campus and the friendships that we had with professors, even though they were above us and teaching us. I had a small scholarship from the women in Western North Carolina as I was a student at Scarritt. When Jim and I got together and it became evident that we were going to get married, that group of women withdrew my scholarship because in their minds, I was no longer going to be going into ministry, religious work. The morning after I had received that news, I was standing in the hallway where the mailboxes were, and this voice behind me said, "I am so sorry that you're no longer going into Christian work." And I turned around and it was Dave White. I don't know. Well, I do know somehow word has spread among the professors about my plight. And I don't know what happened, but I was able to stay at Scarritt and graduate. And I spent many years in younger children's ministry. I did not go back to Western North Carolina to work because I married Jim. We carried on with our lives, and it's been good. But I always appreciated the support that we students were given by the faculty and staff on campus.
Amen.
Can I share something, Jim? One of the joys that I had, not only as a student and graduate, but years later, after serving a number of churches in Alabama, in Texas, and here in Tennessee, I was called by then the president, Dr. Richard Palmer, and asked if I would consider being the director of admissions because the director of admissions was retiring. And I was blown away, but I went for an interview and was offered the position, and I served in that capacity, recruiting students. He said, "We know you know what we're looking for, and we know that you as a diaconal minister can understand what these younger people are needing to have to come to Scarritt." So I was there until the school closed as director of admissions and placement. That's when we still had interviews on campus for the graduating students. But those were not only my my graduate work there, but also it was great fun to be the director of admissions and to serve in the local church in that way.
David.
Two quick ones. One of them, I transferred over to Scarritt from Trevecca Nazarene College across town, and stepped into a brand new world in many ways, especially theologically. It was a world I was looking forward to. So it was great to be there. One of the first people I met was Marilyn Keeler Morton, and we were going through the lunch line one day at Susie Gray Dining Hall, and I picked up an orange, and I said quickly to her, Marilyn, I don't know if you remember this, but I said, this orange is from California. And she said, well, how can you tell? And I said, well, it says color added on it. Florida oranges don't have to put that on it. But my suite mate was Tommy Ridgeway. Those of you who knew Tommy knew he had long hair. My hair was long by Trevecca standards, not by Tommy's standards, but it was long enough that it gave Dr. Cobb an idea. And this was when the Pancake Pantry demonstrations were going on, where they were refusing service to anybody who was a hippie. And she said to Tommy and I one day, if you'll go down there and get arrested, I'll pay for your bail. And I said to Dr. Cobb, I'm not really worried about the bail. I'm just wondering who's going to explain this to my mother. And, and so both Tommy and I resisted Dr. Cobb's invitation to enter into that arena of social justice. But I thought, boy, I'm not at Trevecca anymore, that's for sure. And my world's been better because of it.
So, David Dodge. I don't remember the incident with the orange, but I'm sure it happened. But what I do remember is that Scarritt was 10 acres. We didn't have a football team. We didn't have a basketball team. But we had night court. Jim and Carlene and Tommy Ridgeway with long hair, and myself and a few folks on Friday nights. Our entertainment was we would go downtown to the courthouse and sit in the booking room where people would come in and have to get bailed out. And if night court wasn't like something we wanted to do, then we would go to the Grand Ole Opry, and we would go after the Opry and be able to be entertained by Mother Maybelle and Johnny Cash and some of the Cash family. So what I got from Scarritt was, yes, it was 10 acres and a beautiful campus and a wonderful faculty, but Scarritt put us out in the community. North Nashville, Edge Hill, all over town doing field work and church and community, and it was more than just this 10 acres.
We did have a football team.
Yes, we did.
We had pigeons and squirrels over on the Peabody campus. We had pigeons and squirrels.
And if you went to night court when Judge Boone was on the desk there, you sat absolutely still. You didn't laugh, didn't cough, didn't sneeze, didn't do anything, or he'd hold you in contempt of court. And the rumor was he was actually a relative of Daniel Boone, but who knows if that's true.
Betty, I see that you're ready. Then JD.
At the time that I went to Scarritt back in 1948, the composition of the student body was 1/3 deaconess and missionary candidates, 1/3 returned missionaries, and 1/3 crusade scholars. So from a country girl, immediately I was in the international arena. But one of the great bonuses of that was that as I traveled the world, vacation and meetings, that I was able to meet again with some of the people who had been my fellow sister students in Africa and in South America and in the South Pacific.
Jim, I have one more story.
Hold
Okay.
on, Jim. I got Afri ahead of you, and then you're
Okay.
gonna
All right.
follow
Go
up.
ahead. That's fine. That's fine.
The faculty. I remember Dave White teaching two of us in his class, Harold Smith from Kansas and myself. Dave, even though there were only two of us, he prepared his lesson on missions. I remember that well. Bill Pierce was another one who was so excited in teaching. And of course, Lou Goddard. About food, I remember food at Scarritt. Baked Alaska. For breakfast, I learned to eat grapefruit because I grew up eating grapefruit for snacks, not for breakfast. Until this day, I'm eating grapefruit for breakfast. When people ask me at 79 why I do not have wrinkles, I said, it's because of grapefruit. In fact, the president of the seminary believed me. He started buying grapefruit. And you know, one grapefruit in the Philippines costs $2. In the mall, it's even more expensive. Anyway, that's one thing. The other thing I learned at Scarritt in food is eating grits. I told my roommate, I said, we eat grits. I mean, we do not eat grits. We give those for pigs, for the hogs. And she told me, put butter and cheese. It will be good. And I did. In fact, when I left Nashville, we brought boxes of grits to California. That's how we fell in love with grits. That's food. International affairs. Oh, I was so glad to be assigned to a family that was so loving, so caring. In fact, the last time we communicated was only a couple of years ago because Barbara Bundy died. But they just put me around her and made me feel at home. That was memorable. I really love Nashville. I love Scarritt. I can go back and stay there for a week or so. And I thank people whom I met, who became my friends, Dave, Rick, the Stricklands, Barbara and Joaquin, and I don't see them, Millie, and some others. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Scarritt. Thank you. Thank you to all. Thank you to all.
Back to you, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, let me be very brief. Some of you may remember Jose Beauvais. Jose was a student at Scarritt and at Peabody. And when I came to Scarritt in 1965, Jose was the official Scarritt kisser. And what happened is whenever there was a birthday in the dining hall at night, Jose would go running down the aisle and kiss the girl that was having the birthday. And so he did that the whole first year that I was there. Then Jose graduated, but on his last day, he bequeathed that title of the official Scarritt kisser to me. And so I started out the next year running down and kissing the girls when they had a birthday, until I came to one of our foreign students who said, no, if you kiss me, you marry me. So that kind of ended the Scarritt kisser thing. Okay.
JD, come back.
I know that probably the most important thing that I should remember is getting married at Scarritt and having the President Palmer and his wife throw a bridal shower for us. But like Rick, I remember that football game, the pigeons and the squirrels. I know nothing at that time, especially knew nothing about football, and I was the timekeeper. And my favorite team was not winning, so I had a kitchen timer, and I put my thumb on it to stop it until my team scored, and never got caught cheating. There was some wonderful times sitting on the benches in the quad, and if you can bring back those benches, I'll pitch in for that for sure.
All right. Do either one of you have anything that you all want to share?
Since we are sharing both levity and seriousness, I'll start with the levity and just say, and some of you heard me say this today, several of us have mentioned David White. And we were reminded today, Sherry was here with us as we were doing the tour, that his office was way down there in the bottom corner of Fondren, right where the door went out toward where the tennis courts were. And Gene Cleveland's office was on the 3rd floor of Fondren, and my office was where Alice's had been on the 2nd floor. And David loved to tongue-in-cheek tell the story whenever he had a chance about how so unfortunate that he had to keep a stick with the white flag on it right inside his door, because both Gene Cleveland and Catherine Mitchum walked so fast that if they were coming down and going out, they would mow him down. And so he needed a stick with a white flag on it to put out there in the hall to protect himself from those fast-moving Gene Cleveland and Catherine Mitchum. So that's, and by the way, some of you need to ask Jim Strickland. Today at lunch, he told about where he and Star used to meet here on the campus. That's all I'll say about that, Jim. And the seriousness, probably some of the strongest highlights for me was the team teaching that we got to do with the modules. That was a highlight for me, to not have to just teach by myself, but to be team teaching was a real gift and joy. And then I remember the music, not only all of the music in the choir, but those special times of the madrigal dinners, and the year that Carlton Young moved all the pews in the chapel and turned it into the medieval kind of, flute in one corner and singers in another corner. And I mean, it was a magnificent experience, but all of the music was.
Thank you. Barbara, you had a story.
I was going to comment about the service this morning. As we started singing, we thank thee, Lord, I joined in with all my might. Our celebration when I was a student was slightly different from what you were doing, what Mr. Strickland described. We did this as a recessional, but the graduating class marched out beginning with the first verse. The congregation sang all 3 verses, and the graduating class was outside the chapel alongside what I consider the north side. And we sang the 4th verse for the remaining people inside the chapel. We did not circle the inside of the chapel as you described.
Yes, and Barbara, it was because there was no air conditioning then. And so the windows were open so that you could hear the students singing from outside. Yes, we talked about that. We just didn't say it during the service, but yes, with air conditioning now, and when it ever started, then that no longer could be done, but you're right.
My fellow students had an important ritual as well. And Susan Grosklose is here tonight, and she was one of, if not the first person, she was one of the first people that I had a chance to meet. And we struck up a friendship, and there was oh, I don't know, a group of 10 or what, 10 or 11 of us that it seemed like every night around 9 o'clock, one of us would come down through the halls and get the other ones, and we would go to Shoney's. And that Shoney's that was on Music Row. And we would all come in, and it got so much that the waitress, we had our favorite waitress, and she knew us all by name, and she would greet us, and she even knew what we were going to have before we ordered. And I was the strawberry pie guy. I had never had strawberry pie before I came to Scarritt, and that was one of the greatest things that I think I had ever tasted. But that was one of my favorite rituals when we were here at Scarritt.
That and the cabbage beef soup were the two popular things to eat at Shoney's. You didn't like the soup. One of my memories is Irene Rodriguez from Manila. She she didn't get a chance to go back to the Philippines. So she would always come to my house for the holidays, whether it be Thanksgiving or Christmas or spring break, fall break, whatever. Irene found herself at my house as part of it. And it was always neat. And I'd never been over to Manila, but it's my understanding the last time I connected with Irene, and that was been years ago, but there is a Susan in Manila that is Irene's daughter, and she named her after me. So I did leave a legacy as well as gain a legacy from Scarritt.
Wow.
Very cool.
Well, friends, we are coming up on the conclusion of our time tonight. Is there anyone that has one last story before we head out? Yes, Barbara. And then Richard. We'll get Barbara and Richard tonight.
The first thing I think about a lot of times is the preschool program at Scarritt. Everyone in Christian education got involved with it, and it taught you a lot in terms of beginning to work with preschoolers. And it made me remember how Scarritt was reaching out to the community then. When I was there from 66 to 68. And there was a young mother who had 3 or 4 children in a house right there at the corner of the campus. And whenever we were out with the children, walking around, planting flowers and looking at the neighborhood and talking, and they were always looking like, it looks like so much fun. And we turned around to Lou Goddard. We said, we know we're full, but can we bring those children into the program? So Scarritt was working with the local community when we opened our hearts to those children. And it was good for them. And the other thing I will share, one time I was at the easel and there was a little girl at the easel, and I leaned down to work with her and answer some questions. And it wasn't long before here comes this pamphlet. And it was the picture of the little girl with me talking with her. And that little girl's name was Amy. And I named one of my children after that little girl because that picture went everywhere. And she was such a delightful child. So that's my 2 stories.
Thank you, Barbara. Richard, what's the final word? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
All right. So my wife and I were newlyweds when we came to Scarritt, and we lived off campus, but we always felt very connected to what was going on. But we had come out of church backgrounds that were really strained or different or challenging in different ways. And we really, by the time we had left there, we came to truly appreciate what it meant to be a Christian community. And the reason primarily that we felt that way is the second year, the year I was to graduate, my father became critically ill, and we moved him to Vanderbilt Hospital so we could be close at hand. I'm an only child, and so we felt responsibility. He died at Vanderbilt, and I was so worried about I couldn't graduate And Terry Russell, who was my advisor in Christian Ed, he said, it's okay. You know, we have these things that we have happen in our lives, and we can still, you know, let you graduate if you need to take time away, whatever. They allowed me to do that. I had to take an extended time. I had to end up trying to settle in a state, long distance, and graduated, in fact, the next spring. But we were so grateful. And I don't think, even in the churches I've served, I've felt as much love and care and compassion as my wife and I felt at that time at Scarritt. So it's a very special place in our lives.
Thank you, Richard.
Jim?
What a wonderful story to end on. So the story continues. I want you to mark your calendars today. We are going to have a homecoming, homecoming 2022. And the dates are Friday, October the 14th, and Saturday, October the 15th. And we're very excited. Jim's very excited because he doesn't have to plan. Jim Strickland, that is very excited. He doesn't have to plan homecoming this time. But we're already excited. And one of the things that we definitely want to do, because we've heard so many requests, for all of those who ever were in the Scarritt choir, we want to have a Scarritt concert. So practice
Jim.
singing.
Yeah.
And let's get ready for that to happen. We're going to figure out how to make that happen. And we would love to have all of you back here in person so that we can see you and you can sit on those benches and that we can enjoy ourselves together here next October. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I hope to see you all again soon. And just blessings to each and every one of you in your daily lives. Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bob, how do I get off of this thing?